What's up, Tech Heart? Are you guys ready for the new 2025 Arch Linux installation series? What are we changing about this series? Well, the first video is going to be a vanilla Arch Linux installation video. We'll show you how to burn a USB with an Arch Linux installation ISO and how to install Arch Linux with no GUI. This is going to give you a basic Arch Linux installation, and in subsequent videos we will show you how to install Plasma or Cinnamon or Hyperland or all sorts of other software stacks. So let's dive in together. Let's make the new 2025 Arch Linux installation series, and we're going to learn all about it. First things up, let's get Arch Linux installed to the CLI with no GUIs, but we're going to have a lot of extra sauce, baby. It's going to be customized. It's going to be cool. Let's go! Am I done? The very first thing that we have to do is burn an Arch Linux installation USB. As stated, I'm going to show you that on Windows, macOS, and Linux. We'll open up a web browser and go to rufus.ie. Rufus is an application that will allow us to burn ISOs to a USB. So let's just scroll down and we're going to download Rufus. If you download this first exe file, it will actually install Rufus to your system. But I like to use the portable, and then it doesn't require an installation. So if you want to install it all the way, use the first exe file, but I'm going to grab the portable. Now, we'll go to the Arch Linux website, actually the Arch Linux /download website. We'll scroll all the way down and we'll pick a repo that's close to us. I've already downloaded it, so I won't click here. Okay, now that we have both of those, close that window and we can open up our file browser and go over to downloads. Now you see I have Rufus 4.7 and the Arch Linux ISO. So we'll just double click on Rufus, give it access. I don't need it to check for updates. And once that's opened up, you should see your USB stick. If not, just go ahead and select your USB stick, no name. We won't change anything here because it's already set for an ISO image. Just move your cursor over and click the select button. And now we'll select that Arch Linux ISO that we downloaded. Boom! Just like that, we can come down here and click start. It'll ask us which mode we want to burn it in, and we'll just keep it on the recommended ISO image mode and click OK. And then it'll give us a warning about sys Linux, that it needs to download a couple files. So we'll click yes. And then it'll warn us and click OK and let Rufus finish. Let's fly over and see how to do the same on macOS and Linux. All right, on macOS, the process will be very similar, but we'll use a different software. Balena Etcher. You can go to etcher.balena.io. You can click download Etcher. And we're going to grab it for Mac OS. I need the ARM64 because I'm on Apple Silicon. And look at that, you could even get a Windows copy, but Rufus is preferred on Windows. So we'll come down to our downloads and we'll see the Balena Etcher DMG file. We'll tap it, we'll drag Balena over to our applications, and Bob's your uncle. Now we have Balena. Eject it. And now, if I open up my applications folder, you can select balenaetcher.app. We'll have to allow it for the first time. Same as before, we'll have to go download Arch. Oh, I am going to show this actually because I forgot this in the Windows one. I'm going to click on Rackspace. The file that you want is the first one, Arch Linux-2025 04.01 for x8664.iso. Click that, and in Balena Etcher, we'll select that ISO. It'll be in our downloads, just like that. I'll have to insert my USB stick again. There you go. And once it's recognized, you can do select target and make sure you select the right USB stick. Mine is a Kingston Data Traveler. So just like that, you can say select and click flash. And there you go. It'll start flashing. When this is over, you've got a working install stick, baby. When it gets to the validating point, you can let this finish, or you can most safely skip it. macOS won't be able to read that USB stick because it's Linux. So we'll just click eject. And then you can take your USB, baby. Now let's go see how to burn it in Linux. Okay, rock stars, now let's get going on Linux. We could download Balena Etcher and burn our ISO that way. However, let's hack around in the terminal. We don't need any extra software. in Linux. I'll move into my downloads folder and I'll just show you that I already have the Arch Linux ISO. First off, let's do an ls block. We'll see our different drives that we have installed. My system drive is this NVMe 0 and 1. That's what Debian Linux is installed on. Now, let's insert our USB stick. There it is, we see it popped up. Now let's do another ls block, and we'll notice a new one here, SDA. Now for you, this may be different. That's why we ran the first ls block command, so you can make sure we know exactly what our USB stick is, so you don't overwrite a different drive. For me, it's SDA. Now let's do our command that will burn our ISO. We're gonna run as sudo, which means we're the administrator. The command is dd, and then we'll do if equals, which means the in file. And the in file for us is our ISO. And then OF equals, that's the output file, and we want to write it to our USB stick, so we'll do /dev/SDA. We're going to add on some more options. We'll do BS equals 4M. That sets our block size to 4 megabytes. Bigger blocks equals faster writing. We'll do status equals progress. And that just shows us the live progress. And last, we'll do oflag equals sync. And that reduces caching issues. It just ensures a fully written USB stick. I'll throw that command on screen too. And once you have it, you can just press enter, give it your password, and DD will begin copying your USB stick. And you just wait for it like the others. Bob's your uncle, baby. You'll know that it's finished when you get kicked back out to the command prompt. And then if we do an ls block again, we'll see that our USB stick is written. We can do an ls/media, your username, and arch, and there it is. It's burned. You can do a sudo umount, which is unmount on that /media, and then it auto-filled for me. And now you can remove your USB stick. You're ready to go, baby. Let's get to installing Arch. All right, you rock stars. Now you have your USB stick burned, and we're ready to install Arch. As I said earlier, I have the ThinkPad. I'm going to throw it on. So let me find a USB port. Throw that puppy in there. Now, on different types of computers, there's a different button to get into the BIOS. I already know that my button is the Enter key, but you might have to search Google, or better yet, DuckDuckGo, baby, and find out your model of computer's BIOS button. When I boot this, I'm going to push Enter to get into the BIOS, and then I think it's F12 to be able to select the USB stick. Let me show you that. So my computer will turn on, and I'll spam the Enter button. There we go. And that should bring up this other menu. And then I can press F12. Boom! And after a couple minutes, I can go down and I'm selecting my USB stick. I guess I'll try to show it. I don't know how good it'll come out on this video, but I'm trying. So now I'm going to boot into this Arch Linux by pressing Enter. And that's the Arch Linux installer booting up. And I'll catch you on the screen capture. Okay, all I did was boot into the Arch installer and change the font to something larger so it's easier on y'all. We're going to install Arch Linux. We're going to give our main partition Lux encryption. After that, we'll do some customization on the GRUB themes, and we'll jazz up our Lux encryption unlock. It's going to be really cool. After this video, you'll have a base vanilla Arch Linux installation with no GUIs, but there's going to be subsequent videos in this series to show you all sorts. So let's dive on in. First, we're going to set our key maps. The command is locale ctl, and we'll do a list-key maps. And then we'll do the little bar, and we're going to grep our country. If you're in France, you can type in France, but I'm in the US, so I'll type US. And after you run that, you see all the different locales that you might want to use. I'm just going to use US. So then we'll do load keys, US for me. If you're on Ethernet, you won't have to worry about this, but let's test to see if we have network. So I'll ping 8.8.8.8. The network is unreachable. So let's take a look at all of our different networking options we have here. And I'm on Wi-Fi, so I know for me, it's WLAN 0. Yours may be different. This is your station ID. So make note of your WLAN 0 or whatever your Wi-Fi device is. And then we can do an IWCTL, and we'll do -- passphrase. and this will be your Wi-Fi's password. I have to hide mine, duh. And then we'll type in station and then your Wi-Fi device. Again, for me, it's WLAN 0. And then we'll say connect, the name of your Wi-Fi. So let me get rid of that so I don't have to keep hiding my password. But now we can do a ping 8.8.8.8 and we should see that we're connected. Yeah, Bob's your uncle, baby. Okay, now that we're online, we can run an ls block just to find out what hard drive we want to install to. I'm installing to a 250 gigabyte, so I can see that my hard disk is SDA. Make sure you pick your actual hard disk that's in the computer you want to install Arch Linux on. When you know your disk, we're going to type cfdisk/dev/SDA. We're going to make a new partition and we'll give it 500 megabytes. This is for our EFI boot partition. So we'll want to go over and select type and we'll go all the way up to EFI system. The next partition we'll make new. We'll use the entire thing and that's a Linux file system, which is fine. We'll just move over here to write. We'll type in yes and we're moving right along. Now, if we do an ls block, we can see SDA has a boot partition and a root partition. Okay, since we want to use LUKS encryption on the root partition, which is SDA2, we'll run crypt setup -y-v, and the command we're going to run is a LUKS format. That's going to be on dev SDA2. We have to type yes in capital letters and then create a passphrase. When that's successful, we're going to open that LUKS encrypted partition with crypt setup, open, dev SDA2, and we have to name that. And I always name it LUKS root. You'll enter your passphrase, and Bob's your uncle. Now, if we run an ls block, we'll see SDA2 is a crypt partition, it's open, and it's named LUKS root. Let's format our ext4 root partition, but now it's located at dev/mapper/LUKS root. So let's format that to ext4. And we're going to do an mkfs.fat-F32 on dev SDA1, which is our boot partition. We can see those again. Now let's mount them so we can begin to install Arch Linux. We'll mount dev mapper LUKS root to /mnt. We'll make a directory mnt/boot, and then we'll mount dev SDA1 to mnt/boot. After we do that, we can do another ls block and we can see we're all mounted. Our root partition, which is SDA2, is in mount, and our boot partition is in mount/boot, baby. Now we can run our first Pacstrap command. This installs, we'll type /mnt, packages to our system before we do the next part, which I'll explain in a moment. So we'll install base, Linux, Linux-firmware, Nano for an editor, and I'm going to add Vim because that's what I use. And then you'll either add AMD-Ucode if you're on AMD, but I'm on Intel, so I'm going to install Intel-Ucode. So we'll run that Pacstrap command, and it installs packages just like Pacman would do, but we're not in our Arch Linux system yet, so we have to do it this way. Let that finish, and I'll show you what we do next. Okay, we're done. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to arch-chroot into our installation. Arch-chroot is a command used during the installation or to repair Arch Linux. It temporarily enters into an installed system from the outside, like from our Arch Linux ISO installer. It's going to take our /mount and /mount boot, and we're like going to jump into it as if we were in the installation we're doing right now. Is that confusing? Well, let me just show you. So in order to get into our arch-chroot, we have to make an fstab first. So we're going to do gen fstab -U on /mnt. Take that trailing slash off. And then we're going to do two of those to /mnt, etc. fstab. And now we can even see that if we do cat /mount, etc. fstab. And there we go. We have our boot partition and our root partition. Now we can use that arch-chroot command just on /mnt and press enter, and notice your prompt changed. That denotes that we are now inside of our Arch Linux installation. So this is good. Let's work on our swap file. We can do dd if equals /dev/0, and of is going to be equals /, which is our root directory, swap file. We're placing a swap file in the root directory. We'll type in bs equals 1, capital M, count equals 16384, status equals progress, and let's run that.
this is going to write us a 16 gigabit swap file. If you only wanted an 8 gigabit swap file, just change that count equals part. Okay, with our swap file being done, we'll have to do a chmod 600 on /swap file. We'll run mkswap on /swap file, and then we'll do a swap on swap file. Now, we'll have to add that to our fstab, so you can run nano, or for me, vim, on /etc/fstab. Notice, we don't have to edit /mount /etc/fstab, and that's because we're arch-rooted in to this installation. So let's edit that fstab file, and we'll come down here, we'll put a hash line in, and we'll just call it our swap file. And in the first tab, we're gonna type /swap file to point it to our swap file, and then press tab, not space, tab. None, tab, swap, tab, defaults, tab, 0, tab, 0, enter, and save the file. For me, I have to type :WQ. If you're in Nano, push Control X and then say yes to save. Moving right along. Let's do some zone info stuff. We're gonna do an ln-sf. We're gonna point it to /user/share/zone-info/ now I'm gonna type in my country, which is America, and then my region, which is Los_Angeles. You'll have to select your country and region. If you don't know your regions, type in your country and then push the tab button. You'll be able to display all the possibilities. But I know that I'm in Los Angeles. And then type /etc/local time. Boom! Then we'll type HW clock --sys to HC. Let's go! Now we're gonna edit and use nano or vim /etc/locale.gen. Now, I'm going to be looking for en_US. You'll have to find your country. But for me, it's English_US. And we want to find the UTF-8 line. And I'm going to remove my hash. You can remove your hash for your country. And then let's save that file. Now we can run a locale-gen command. And that'll suck in our locale. Oh yeah! Let's do some echo commands. Echo, capital L-A-N-G, equals, and for me, it's en_us.utf8. I'm going to do those little brackets to etc/locale.conf. Let's echo capital keymap equals, for me it's us to etc/vconsole.conf. Boom! Let's echo. And here's going to be our host name. I'm just going to name this Arch, but you can name it whatever you want, and it's the host name of this computer. So I'm just going to use Arch, and I'll do bracket to etc/host name. Okay. Now let's edit. So nano or vim etc/hosts, and we're going to write some stuff in here. The first two lines are fine, so I'll just add another, and I'm going to type 127.0.0.1, and I'll do a tab, our host name, which I just named it arch.localdomain, another tab, and your host name again, which is Arch for me. We'll press enter and we'll save. Boom! Now, we should probably write our root user's password, so we'll run passwd and give your root user a password. You're doing this thing, man! Installing Arch like a gangster. You know what we're ready for now? We're ready for our big package installation. So we're gonna run a pacman-S, and we're gonna install some stuff. We're gonna do base-devel. These are development tools for like compiling software. You don't need this, but you're a hacker. Install it. We're gonna do blue. We're gonna do blues-utils. We're gonna do cups for printing. We're gonna do dialog. We're gonna do DOS, FS, tools. We're gonna do EFI boot MGR. We're gonna do git and grub. We're gonna do Linux-headers. We're going to do mtools. We're going to do network-manager-applet and network manager. We're going to do os-prober. We're going to do pulse audio-bluetooth. We're going to do reflector. We're going to do wireless_tools. We're going to do WPA supplicant. We're going to do xdg-user-ders and xdg-utils. Now, some of you might wonder why we're installing Bluetooth stuff and a network manager when we're not installing a GUI in this video. This will just give us a good base regardless of what GUI we install later. So let's let that run. And I had a couple spelling errors, baby. Not EGI boot manager. Come on. Now we'll let that run, and I'll catch you on the flip. You're installing Arch, baby. Go! With the pacman command finished, we have to make some more tweaks. Let's edit nano or vim /etc/mkinitcpio.com. Now, this is a file that sets the hooks in our boot process. So we'll go down to this hooks section and we're going to look for the hooks line. Here it is. Since we have an encrypted root partition, we need to go after block and before file system. So I'll just move over here. There it is, block and file systems. And I'm going to insert here encrypt. And that'll tell the system at boot that, hey, we need to unencrypt a Lux partition. Let's save that file. And now we can run an mkinitcpio-p Linux. Okay, we're getting close, man. Now it's time to install GRUB. Let's do grub-install, and we're gonna do a --target equals x86_64-EFI. We're gonna do --EFI-directory equals /boot. We're going to do --bootloader-id equals grub in capitals. And let's give that a go. Okay, installation finished, no error reported. Now we're going to do a grub-mkconfig -o/boot/grub/grub.cfg. Okay, that created a configuration file. However, we need to point it to our looks encrypted partition. So let's do a blk ID. And we're gonna look down here for the partition that it says type equals crypto_lux. When we found that line, which for me is /dev/sda2, you can see type equals crypto_lux, and we're going to look for the UUID, not the part UUID. So for me, it starts with C1275 and it ends with E420. I always take a picture of this with my cell phone, so I'm going to do so. There it is. And once you have a picture, we can move forward. We're going to edit, etc. default grub. Now we're going to look for the grub_cmd line Linux default. So it's right here. And after quiet, we'll put a space, and we're going to say crypt device equals capital UUID equals, and then we're going to enter the UUID we have a picture of. We're going to make sure we double check that UUID. It has to match exactly when we first boot into our system. I'll show you where, if you made a mistake, you can edit that. Then we'll type a colon and the name of that partition, which remember we named it Lux root, and then we're going to do a space root equals /dev/mapper/Lux root. All of this has to match exactly. So when you get that in there correctly, let's go ahead and save the file. Then we can do another grub mkconfig -o/boot/grub/grub.cfg, and that'll write those changes. Okay, dude, we are so close to our first boot. Let's do a systemctl enable network manager, capital NM. Let's do a systemctl enable Bluetooth. Systemctl enable network manager -dispatcher.service. Okay. Ooh, let's not forget. Let's do a user add to make our user account. We're going to do -m wheel. This will give us sudo access and then your username. Then run a passwd on your username and give your user a password. Oh yeah. Let's type in capitals editor equals nano, or for me, vim. And then we'll run a sudo. This command could be dangerous, so let's make sure we make the exact edits. We're going to go down to the %wheel line. Here we go. We want the first one, and we're going to remove the hash and the space, just like that. Now that'll give sudo access to all users in the wheel group, which your user is a part of. You can use sudo, but we'll have to type a password. Let's save this file, and again, you have to edit it just like that. Remove the hash and the space on the %wheel all equals all line. That's it, dude. We can exit out of our arch-chroot, and we are ready for our first boot into this system. Are you guys ready? Let's get going! I'm going to do a power off now. Oh, actually, a reboot now. And let it ride. I'm going to stop this at the grub part of the boot. And I'm just going to mention, let's say our boot failed. We'd reboot the system, and you could just come in here and press the E key. And right down there, you see where it says crypt device equals UUID? You could edit that, and then you'd get into the system. You'd have to re-edit that grub.cfg file and rerun grub-mkconfig. That is, if you messed up on that UUID number. But we're going to try. And look at that, baby, we're in. This is our Lux encrypted root partition, so give it that password. Oops, did I mess up? There we go. Make sure you enter the password correctly. Log into your system with your user account. Now, I'm going to need network access again. I can do a ping 8.8.8 and the network is unreachable, but we have a new command. We can run nmtui, and I'll go to activate a connection. You select your Wi-Fi, give it your password, and just like that, Bob's your uncle. Now we can test our ping again, and we are online. Okay, now let's customize our system a little bit. We're going to need a Pacman helper. Let's move into downloads, and we're going to do a git clone, https://aur.archlinux.org/peru.git. Peru is like yay. It will let us install packages from the Arch user repository. Let's move into Peru, cd Peru, and we're going to do it make pkg-si. This will take a while, so I'll catch you on the flip. Select the defaults and let it roll. Boom! Now we have Peru installed. We can move out of that Peru directory and rm-rf it, so that's gone. But now you'll notice we have the Peru command. This will be helpful in a minute. Let's get some graphic stuff going. Sudo pacman-s. Now, if you're on an AMD GPU, you'd install AMD GPU. If you're on NVIDIA, I think it's like NVIDIA-utils and NVIDIA-settings, but I'll flash the Arch Wiki page on screen, and if you have NVIDIA, you should go do some research and make sure. For Intel, we're going to install xf86-video-intel and let that ride. Awesome. Now, let's do some cool GRUB themes. Let's do a git clone -depth1, and we'll run that on https://gitlab.com/vandal-byte/dedsec-grub-theme.git. Now these are really cool. You can go to the GitLab website and see like 10 different versions or options for the theming, but I'm just going to pick one at random. You should head over and check out all of your options. When that's done, we can move into dedsec grub theme, and we'll run a sudo python 3 on the dedsec-theme.py-install. Okay, there's all of the options. Do I want WannaCry or Tremor or Mashup or Fuckery? I'm going to go with Sight Down. Again, you can go pick what's best for you. For me, it's 1440p, and I want color icons. We'll let that finish. Next, we're going to work on our Plymouth theme. I'll move out of the dedsec directory. I'll keep it for later, just in case I want to change that theme. And we're going to use the Peru command, peru-s on Plymouth-theme-optimus-git. We'll let that pull down. All right, now we have our Plymouth theme. We'll run a peru-s on Plymouth-git. As this installs, it may ask you to uninstall Plymouth, because Plymouth-git is the more bleeding edge version, and you can say, yes, it's okay to uninstall Plymouth. There it was. I had to say yes to remove Plymouth. Okay, now we have to make some changes. We'll do a sudo nano or vim on etc/mkinitcpio.conf. We're going to go look for that same hooks line, which is right down here. And this time we're looking to add before encrypt and after block. Okay, so here's block and here's encrypt. So in the middle of that, I'll put Plymouth. Now this is going to tell the system to use Plymouth for the looks encryption unlock. So let's save that file. We will also have to do a sudo nano or vim on etc default grub. And after quiet on that grub cmd line Linux default, after quiet and before crypt device, we're going to insert splash. That'll show the graphics. We can save that file. And two more commands. Let's do a sudo grub-mkconfig -o/boot/grub/grub.cfg. Let that run. That adds that new configuration. And then we're going to run a sudo Plymouth arch-set-default-theme. We're going to do /r, so it recompiles the mkinit CPIO, and we're going to say Optimus. That sets our Plymouth Optimus theme. Baby! We're there, guys. We now have a vanilla Arch Linux installation. We're going to end this video here in a second, and you're going to be able to watch many more to see how to install many desktop environments. We're going to cover it all. So come on back and get your Arch system dialed in. 2025, baby. Starting with vanilla, building on top. Do you want Hyperland? Do you want Plasma? Do you want Cinnamon? We'll do it all. The very last thing that we'll do is we're going to do a sudo reboot now, and we are going to see the fruits of our labor, our entire vanilla Arch Linux installation, and all of our customization. Let's go! Okay, there's our GRUB theme, and again, you could have picked from 10 different ones. That's nice. Fancy. And then boom, here's our new looks encryption unlock. And it looks pretty good. Optimus Prime is shining away. Well, that does it for this part of the series. Check out the playlist and dial in your Arch Linux installation. See how easy it is to make this happen? You're not a hacker. Tech Heart. Ow!